here at Terry's workshop, and he's going to tell us a little bit about removing, inspecting, and cleaning the roller guides on your big game rods. And Terry, how do you start? How do you go about it?
Well, Tom, every fall, and several times throughout the season, but every fall or before you start up for the new season, we strip down and inspect all the roller guides on our rods. It seems kind of like a daunting task. I mean, there is a bunch of them, there's some small parts in there, but it's really not that hard, and it'll give you a lot of peace of mind, not having to worry about hooking that big fish, that big tuna, or maybe that marlin on that big canyon run of yours, and having a roller guide stuck and burning through the line.
That's right. Now, how long does it take you to do each roller?
The whole rod takes about 20 minutes or so. I used to try to do them one at a time, and I found that if I stripped all the rollers off, cleaned them all, kind of went a production line set up on it, I could get it down to about 10 or 15 minutes per rod.
And do you need a whole bunch of special tools? Or?
No, you can do it with a screwdriver. You need some degreaser, some good lube to re-lube everything, and a couple of pipe cleaners helps, and some paper towel.
Great. Well, you make it sound pretty simple. Let's take a look at how Terry goes about it. We'll show you how to do it right now.
Let's do it. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the screws out that hold the rollers into the frame assemblies. Now there's a screw head on each side. There's a female screw and there's a male screw. And there's the other side right there. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can just get on the front head of the screw and put your finger on the back side and press against it, and the screw will come out. Sometimes it doesn't work that well and you have to use 2 screwdrivers. It's a little bit more of a handful. Sometimes having a buddy doesn't hurt to help you get that out. And you simply just take the screw out, work it all the way out. Now there's the female part of the screw, and here's the male part. In this case, the roller just fell right out. Now we've got the roller guide out, and we've got the male and female screw portions out. There is one more piece in here, and that's the piece that we really want to pay attention to. There's a little bushing inside of the roller, and we're going to have to push that out. That's the part that gets sticky. Now I've got a piece of pipe cleaner here, and the pipe cleaner usually will push that bushing right out for us. Now there's the bushing right there. Now we've got the brass roller, we've got the bushing, and we've got our 2 little screw pieces. Okay. Now we've got our 4 small parts right here, the roller, the bushing, the 2 screws, and we're going to put it all into the degreaser. Any commercially available degreaser will do a great job on this. These parts aren't heavily oiled or heavily greased, so any type of light solvent will get the job done for you. You just don't want something that's going to leave a film or something slimy on your small parts. We're going to go back once they're cleaned and they're degreased, and we're going to oil them the way we want to get them oiled up.
So now, Terry, you've got all the rollers taken out of the rod. How do you know which rollers go where? Well,
it's a good question, Tom. On these particular rods, all the rollers, all the bushings, and all the screws are the same, except for the tip top. The bushing and the screws are the same, but on that one, as you can see here, the roller is significantly larger.
So it's easy to tell.
It's the only one that's different, so if you just keep that in mind, it won't fit in any of the other holes.
Right, so, but you certainly want to check, though, on your particular model.
Absolutely.
Rod,
the last thing you'd want to do is strip all these off and find out that you had several different sizes.
Oh.
And if you do, there's a very simple solution to that, is just do one guide at a time. On this particular rod, where they're all the same, I found it's much easier for me to strip them all off, clean them as a batch, and then reassemble them as a batch. But when I did it the first time, I did it one guide at a time.
Good point.
Now that I've got the rod stripped down, so I've just got the guide frames and the blank, what I'm going to do is take some degreaser. I like Simple Green. It smells nice, it's biodegradable, and I'm out in my garage, so I don't mind if a little bit of it falls on the floor here. I just give it a little bit of a spritz, and you can take either a rag or a paper towel and just kind of go over the whole rod, get off any grease or grime or particles, anything like that that you don't want to have on your rod. And then I take my paper towel or my rag and I run it into the framework of all these guides and just kind of give them a good cleaning inside on the surface where the rollers are going to be. Okay, these have been soaking for about 10 or 15 minutes. No real set period of time, just the amount of time it took me to wipe the rod down, clean out the frameworks of the guides. Now you're going to take each piece out, and I'm going to set it on my paper towel, and as you can see, it's loosened up some of the gunk that was on the rollers. I usually just take some paper towel, kind of wipe off all the surfaces here, and you can see the residue that's left on the paper towel. To clean out the inside of the rollers, I find that pipe cleaner available at your local craft store works really, really well. All you have to do is pinch it down so that it fits through the hole in the roller, and then just kind of run it through a little bit, and you can see there's some dirt and grime on the end of the pipe cleaner. And I'm going to do that for each one of these rollers, and I'm going to set them on a roll of paper towel. You can see again, just a little bit of grease and grime, and this is the kind of stuff right here that's going to jam up your rollers and cause them to bind later on in the season. I'm going to wipe them down, kind of wipe both sides like that. And you'll be surprised by the time you're done here, the paper towel will be fairly dirty, even though the rollers have been sitting in a cleaner for some time. Now these are the bushings. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the pipe cleaner, we're going to run it through the bushings, just kind of wipe them off on the paper towel. Pipe cleaner makes this a much easier job.
So Terry, you've got all the rollers and bushings clean now and dried off, and all the residue removed from them using the pipe cleaner and all that neat stuff. So what's the next step? Okay,
the next step is we're going to oil them up. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do this. This is just a typical reel oil. It's the lightweight oil. You can pick it up at any tackle shop. I'm not terribly concerned about brand or anything like that. This is just a good synthetic reel oil. And be careful, you don't want to use a real grease. You want to make sure this is light and thin. You can see it kind of swishes around right there. And you can do each one individually. But what I found works really well is you just take all these parts right here and in a little Tupperware, and I just dunk them all in and let them sit for a few minutes. That way I know that the reel oil gets inside all the little nooks and crannies and inside the bushings and so forth. And again, it doesn't take long for it to coat. And now as I reassemble the rod, I reassemble it out of the little lube bucket here.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, and now we're going to reassemble the guides one at a time, and we're just going to work right out of the bucket. So we're going to take out a roller, we're going to take out the female screw, and we're going to take out the male screw, and we're going to take out a bushing. We've got our 4 pieces here on the paper towel. They've all been dropped into the oil, so they're all nice and lubed up. We're going to take the bushing, and we're just going to slide it right inside the roller, just like that. Now we're going to bring it over to the rod, and we're going to set it right into the frame. Now you're going to take the female portion of the screw, and this part can get a little bit tricky. I'm going to take my small screwdriver, you can use your pipe cleaner, and you kind of use it as a drift pin so that everything lines up. And you're going to drop your female screw in there. I'm going to rotate it over. And I'm going to take the male screw. And I'm going to stick it right inside the framework. And if I'm lucky, it's going to catch the threads on the female screw. Just like that. Now, we're going to tighten them up. And there's no real set tightening on this. You don't want to go too tight or it'll pinch the roller and it won't rotate. You don't want to go too loose or it'll come out. I find that I can, on most of these, use my finger on the back side of the screw and just hold tension on it and snug it up to the point where it's not going anyplace. And now, if we can zoom in here real good, you want to make sure that you can roll the guide and it's rolling nice and freely, just like that. Okay, and we're almost done here. We're at the tip top. And again, it's a different size than the rest of them, so it drops right into place. Give it a little snug there. Now I'm going to take my pipe cleaner on the last one, and I'm just going to run it right through, and it's kind of tough to see. Sometimes the rollers get a little sheen of oil on them, and the pipe cleaner will slide over the roller. So you just kind of have to use your judgment here and roll, and now I can just see the reflection rolling back and forth in the guide, so I know that the roller's working for me. And I've checked each one, and each one rolls nice and smooth. You can run a piece of line through all the guides and try them. I prefer to do each one individually, and this is pretty much it. Now I've got all my rollers all cleaned up, all oiled. I just take a little paper towel and wipe off any excess oil. because if I'm going to put this up for the winter now, I don't want dust settling in on the nice fresh oil that I put on. So I'm going to take off any extra residue, and I'm going to reinstall the unibutt, and that's just a matter of sliding it in. There's a little pivot point, you can kind of hear it when I twist it. So you get it to the pivot point. And I crank that down. Now again, these are being put up for the winter time now, so I'm not going to really crank it down too hard. If this was summertime, we were going to be using them, I'd be snugging these up really tight, and I'd be putting the reel on the reel seat with a strap wrench. But again, we don't want it to get snugged up too tight over the winter time. And that's all it takes. If you really want to be diligent with your rods, you've got something that's really special, a light coat of automotive wax, a little bit of spray wax onto a rag, and you can hit all the fiberglass and all the flex coat points, and it'll keep your rod protected and clean and working well for you for years.